Default execution mode configuration combinations in JUnit. Here you can see the default execution mode configuration combinations. By default, JUnit Jupyter tests are run sequentially in a single thread. Running tests in parallel, for example, to speed up the execution, is available as an opt-in feature since version 5.3. To enable parallel execution, set the junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.enable configuration parameter to true. For example, the junit platform.properties. Please note that enabling this property is only the first step to required to execute test in parallel. If enabled, test classes and methods will still be executed sequentially by default. Whether or not a node in the test tree is executed concurrently is controlled by its execution mode. The following two modes are available. Same thread, force execution in the same thread used by the parent. For example, when used on a test method, the test method will be executed in the same thread as any at before all or at after all methods of the containing test class. Concurrent, execute concurrently unless a resource lock forces execution in the same thread. By default, the nodes in this test tree use the same thread execution mode. You can change the default by setting the junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.default configuration parameter. Alternatively, you can use the @execution annotation to change the execution mode for annotated elements and its sub-element, if any, which allows you to activate parallel execution for individual test classes one by one. Configuration parameters to execute all tests in parallel. junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.enabled equal true. junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.default equal concurrent. The default execution mode is applied to all nodes of the test tree with a few notable exceptions, namely test classes that use the lifecycle.per_class mode or method order, except for method order.random. In the former case, the test authors have to ensure that the test class is thread safe. In the latter, concurrent execution might conflict with the configured execution order. Thus, in both cases, test methods in such test classes are only executed concurrently if the @execution concurrent annotation is passed on the test class or method. When parallel execution is enabled and the default class order is registered, the top level test classes will initially be sorted accordingly and scheduled in that order. However, they are not guaranteed to be started in exactly that order, since the threads they are executed on are not controlled directly by JUnit. All nodes of the test tree that are configured with the concurrent execution mode will be executed fully in parallel according to the provided configuration while observing the declarative synchronization mechanism. Please note that the capturing standard output or error needs to be enabled separately. In addition, you can configure the default execution mode for a top level classes by setting junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.class.default configuration parameter. By combining both configuration parameters, you can configure classes to run in parallel, but there are methods in the same thread. Configuration parameters to execute top level classes in parallel, but methods in the same thread. junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.enabled equal true, and junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.default equal same underscore thread, and junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.classes.default equal concurrent. The opposite combination will run all methods within one class in parallel, but top level class will run sequentially. Configuration parameter execute top level classes sequentially, but there are methods in parallel. junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.enabled equal true, junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.default equal concurrent, and junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.classes.default equal same underscore thread. The following this diagram illustrates how execution of two top level test classes A and B with two test methods per class behaves for all four combinations of junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.default and junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.classes.default. See labels in the first column. The default execution mode configuration combinations, if the junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.classes.default configuration parameters not explicitly set, the value for junit.jupyter.execution.parallel.mod.default will be used instead. Here the same thread and same thread. Here the a.test1, then a.test2, then a.test1, sorry, b.test1, then b.test2. Here the same thread concurrent. Here the a.test1, and here the the top level classes, execute the top level classes in parallel, but their method in the but their method in the same thread. Here the to execute top level classes sequentially, but there are methods in parallel. Here classes and methods are in parallel here. Now this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for watching it.